This is Diary of an Awesome Friendly Kid, Part 7. The time me and Greg came up with our own superhero. Okay, this is probably going to be the best chapter in this book because it's the only one that's got superheroes in it. And I hope I didn't spoil the surprise, but even if I did, trust me, it's still going to be a pretty good chapter. This one day it was raining, so me and Greg couldn't go outside. And Greg wasn't allowed to play video games because he lost his temper playing Twisted Wizard. Mrs. Heffley said kids our age spend too much time in front of screens anyway, and it was good for us to take a break. Then she gave us some markers and a sketchbook and told us we should use our imaginations and make up our own comics like we used to. Well, the last time me and Greg made some comics together, it didn't turn out so good for me. And if you don't know the whole story, then I'll give you the short version. In our first year of middle school, me and Greg worked on a comic together called Zoo-Wee Mama. But then Greg got bored of it and said I should do it by myself. And then my comic got in the school paper and Greg was mad at me, even though he's the one who told me I should do it. Then we got in a big fight in front of the whole school, and some teenagers came out of nowhere, and they caught me and Greg. Then they made me eat a piece of that was on the blacktop. I still can't eat pizza or mozzarella sticks or anything else with in it, but Greg says I need to get over it because that happened a long time ago. So anyway, when I opened that sketchbook Mrs. Heffley gave us, there were a bunch of Zoo-Wee Mamas in there that we never turned into the school paper. Greg said that I should put them in here because they were going to be worth a lot of money when he gets famous. Merry Christmas, Squigla. It's 20,000 BC and Christmas hasn't even been invented yet. Zoo-Wee Mama. I finally finished my masterpiece. It's time to show it to the world. You dummy, it won't fit through the door. Zoo-Wee Mama. Okay, sir, I tore down your house. That'll be $10,000. What? I left a note on the door that said, "Do not tear down my house." Oops, I guess your note got wet. Do tear down my house. Zoo-Wee Mama. Uh-oh, Joe is sleepwalking again. We should wake him up. I heard it's a bad idea to wake up someone who's sleepwalking. But we are camping on a cliff. Zoo-Wee Mama. The bank robber made off with $30,000. Police have released a sketch of the suspect based on witness descriptions. Zoo-Wee Mama. I've invented a new ray gun. Well, what does it do? It makes everything go backward. Yeah, right. Zap. Zoo-Wee Mama. Roar, I'm gonna eat you. A talking bear? I must be in a dream. Yeah, well, guess what? A bear is about to eat you in real life. Zoo-Wee Mama. I found it, the legendary Dryoculus australis, the rarest insect on Earth. And my son is here to see me capture it. Zoo-Wee Mama. I told Greg maybe we should write some more Zoo-Wee Mamas, but he said that joke is stale and we need to come up with something new. And then Greg had an awesome idea. He said we should create our own superhero. Well, I liked that idea a lot because it sounded fun. But Greg said that he didn't care about having fun. He just cared about the money. Greg said if you come up with a superhero, then you can sell the movie rights and sit back and wait for the money to roll in. Then we started talking about what we'd do with all the money we were going to make from our superhero idea. I said I'd go to the toy aisle at the store and I'd fill up a shopping cart with as many toys as I could fit. But Greg said I wasn't thinking big enough. He said he'd buy the whole store and wear a different pair of sneakers every day, and he'd live in the snack aisle. Then I said I'd buy a fancy sports car and I'd give Miss Becca a ride to school every morning. Greg said we were going to be so rich we could buy the whole school and fire all the teachers and have epic paintball fights in the hallways. I said maybe we shouldn't fire all of the teachers because Miss Beck is really nice and she's good at teaching math. Greg said we'd be so rich we wouldn't need to learn math anymore, but we could keep Miss Beck around because we need someone to count our money for us. And I guess that made me feel a little better. Greg said we had plenty of time to figure out what we were going to do with all our money later on, but right now it was time to get serious about this superhero idea. Greg said the first thing we needed to do was figure out what kind of powers our superhero should have. I said maybe he could fly or have super strength, but Greg said both of those ideas were dumb because they've been done a million times before. Then I said maybe our superhero could have X-ray vision, but Greg said that wasn't a good superpower because once he accidentally saw his grandpa naked and he wishes he hadn't. Greg said we needed to do something original, so we started coming up with ideas that no one ever thought of before. And the ideas we came up with were okay, but not great. The Nutster. Pollen Lady. Diaper Whip. Cruncher. The Squisher. The one we liked the best was this guy called the Chuckster who could throw his own head like a football. But Greg said the Chuckster wouldn't work as an action figure because the head would be a choking hazard for little kids. Then we tried to come up with some characters that would be okay if a kid accidentally swallowed them, but most of our ideas weren't that good. Cheese Stick Boy. Chicken Finger Lady. Greg said moms are usually the ones who buy their kids toys, so we should come up with something they'd like. But we weren't happy with that idea either. Healthy Snacks Man. Greg said maybe the reason we weren't coming up with anything good was that we weren't a very good team. He said we should try working on our own and see who could come up with a better idea. We both did our own thing, and then we showed each other our work. Greg's superhero was a guy from space who had a different kind of power in every fingertip, which was actually a pretty awesome idea. Intergalactic Man. I told Greg his idea was cool and we should go with that. Then Greg said, "Well, what's your idea?" But I didn't want to tell him because I knew he'd laugh. And then he promised he wouldn't laugh, so I showed him my character. Amazing Guy. Greg asked what Amazing Guy's superpower was, and I said it was kindness. And that made Greg break his promise about not laughing. Greg said a superhero should be edgy, and it would be cool if Amazing Guy had knives coming out of his knuckles and wore a black leather jacket and said swears when he fights the bad guys. But I said I wanted Amazing Guy to be a role model for children, and that made Greg break his promise a second time. I told Greg if he didn't like my character, that was fine. But I wasn't giving him any money if I sold the movie rights. And all of a sudden, Greg got real interested in Amazing Guy and said if I get rich, I owe him half the money because I used his markers and paper. I said that wasn't true, and Greg said he'd call his lawyer to find out. Then Greg dialed a number on the phone, and I listened in on his half of the conversation. Yep, they're my markers. 50%? Okay, that's what I thought. Then Greg hung up the phone. I told him to call his lawyer back because I wanted to ask him a few questions. But Greg said I couldn't afford his lawyer and I had to get my own. Greg said since we were going to split things 50-50, then we were equal partners and we needed to work together. I said fine, but I still don't want Amazing Guy to say swears. And Greg said, okay, we'll talk about that later. Greg said the first thing we needed to do was give Amazing Guy an origin story to show how he got his powers. Then he told me how other superheroes got their powers. I said Amazing Guy just had good parents who raised him to be a nice person, and that's why he decided when he grew up, he'd fight for people who needed his help. But Greg said that's a terrible origin story. He said something exciting needed to happen, like Amazing Guy gets hit by a meteor or gets bitten by a radioactive bug or something like that. And I said, okay, fine, then Amazing Guy gets hit by a double rainbow, and that's how he gets his powers. Greg said that didn't make sense, but he didn't feel like getting into a dumb argument about rainbows, so we'd come back to the origin story later on too. Greg said every good superhero has a secret identity, so we needed to come up with one for Amazing Guy. I said he could be a nurse at an urgent care clinic, and when he gets off work at 6 p.m., he becomes Amazing Guy and then helps people until his bedtime. And no one knows his secret identity, not even Nurse Beck, who works with him at the urgent care place. Greg said I got that name from Miss Beck, our math teacher, but I said, nope, it's just a coincidence. Greg said we were wasting too much time talking about stupid stuff, and we needed to design Amazing Guy's suit. I said I liked the suit I came up with just fine, but Greg said it was stupid because everyone could tell who he was if they saw him walking around in regular life. Greg said Amazing Guy needed a mask, so he drew one that looked pretty awesome, and he added a cape too. Then Greg said if Amazing Guy doesn't have any real powers, then maybe his suit could have powers. But I said Amazing Guy has the power of kindness, and his gloves are padded so he doesn't hurt the bad guys too much. I said I wanted to do all the drawings, and Greg said that's fine, but he'd do the writing. So I drew this awesome scene where Amazing Guy has to leave work early to go fight some bad guys, and I left space for Greg to fill in the words. We got the x-ray back and, gulp, yes? It's the signal. But what about my arm? Nurse, come back! You dummy, you could have used the door. I will rescue you, friend. It's okay, we are just hanging out and having fun. Leave him alone, you street punks. You're using words that hurt. Hey, take it easy, pal. My dad gave me this bat for my birthday. Boy, that guy wasn't so amazing. I thought he was kind of a jerk. I saved you from those thugs. Those guys were my friends. I told Greg he totally messed up my comic and that from now on, I'd do the drawing and the writing. Then Greg said he was going to call his lawyer again, and I said, go right ahead. And even when he said he was going to call Santa, I wouldn't budge. Greg said he didn't want to write for my stupid comic anyway, because my superhero was terrible. And he said he was just going to write Intergalactic Man comics, and I said fine, because my character was better. Then Greg said if Intergalactic Man got in a fight with Amazing Guy, he'd wipe him out in like 5 seconds. And I said, oh yeah, let's see about that. So then we drew this battle, and he drew his superhero, and I drew mine. We meet for the very first time, Amazing Guy. Hi. There are so many ways I could destroy you. Which power shall I choose? Ice freeze. Rainbow block. Okay, fine. Laser finger. Rainbow block again. Hey, you can't use the same power twice in a row. That's all I really need to fight you. Okay, then prepare for me to unleash my full powers. Fire blast, electroshock, stunolyzer. Mwah! Prepare to meet your doom. Summoning the power of kindness. 'Cause thou. No. I guess I got a little carried away with that last drawing because after I drew it, Greg said it was probably time for me to go home. Maybe next time I won't have Amazing Guy use his full powers on his enemies, because I wouldn't want his parents or Nurse Beck to be disappointed in him. And that's it for this section.